Hello and welcome to my book review of Termination Shock by Neal Stephenson. I haven't done a book review in about 16 years and I felt like I should get back into doing them. I didn't stop reading, I just stopped making book reviews and started making videos of just whatever I felt like doing. But I want to get back into doing book reviews. I'm going to start doing videos on a more regular basis again. And I'm going to try and do a book review every 2 weeks and then intersperse here with some other videos that you'll see if you're subscribed. So please give a like and subscribe. More videos to come, more book reviews. Like I said, I haven't stopped reading over the past 16 years. I just stopped making reviews. But I'm going to go back and I'm going to review some of the older books I've read, some of the new books I'm reading, some of the comics and stuff that I've been reading. I've been buying a lot of omnibuses lately, so I'm going to start doing some reviews on those too. So definitely, like I said, like, subscribe, check me out in the future. But let's get into this book. What spurred me to come back and doing book reviews was this book, and not for a good reason. I hate this book. I hate this book so much. This may be the worst book I have ever read in my entire life. I despise this book, and I had to talk about it. I've read other books by Neal Stephenson, mostly just the stuff that came out in the 90s. I've read Zodiac, Snow Crash, The Diamond Age, and Cryptonomicon, all of which I liked. I wouldn't say they were the best books in the world, but I liked them. Especially Zodiac and Snow Crash I enjoyed quite a bit. Zodiac, I really liked the environmental message that's in that book. And then Snow Crash was pretty exciting. It had some fairly good concepts. It wasn't the best book in the world, but it was interesting. And I think it would make a good movie. But it's now 2021 when he wrote this. And this is not the same guy that wrote Zodiac or Snow Crash. At least I don't feel like it's the same guy. This book is trash. Now, what is this book about, though? And how did I come about to read this 5 years later after it was released? Well, I was just in the library the other day. I buy way too many books, and I was like, well, I should actually get a library card. Support your local libraries. So I went and got a library card, and I was walking around, and I was like, what should I read? And I was like, oh, I haven't read a Neal Stephenson book in a long time. And I went and checked out what's on the shelf, and I saw this, and I opened it up and read the flaps on the inside. And I was like, oh, this is a book about climate change. And he wrote this during the pandemic. So I'm like, oh, this could be interesting. This could be good. It's about climate change, and it's supposed to take place around like 2035 or 2040, somewhere around there. So I'm like, okay, this could be good. I want to see what this guy has to say about climate change. I'm going to start reading it. The book's about climate change, but the main concept of the book is that there's this billionaire who creates this giant gun that is going to shoot sulfur dioxide into the atmosphere, kind of like a volcano does. Like, he models it after Mount Pinatubo, and it's supposed to shoot sulfur dioxide into the air, which will then reflect sunlight off of the atmosphere, and then, it'll help to cool down the planet, which is what happened when Mount Pinatubo erupted, and, it cooled the Earth about, a little bit for about 2 years or so. The main characters in this book are, there's this queen. Her nickname is Saskia. She's the queen of the Netherlands. She's Dutch. There's a guy in Texas who hunts wild pigs. Of course, right now, even wild pigs are kind of a big problem in Texas. So they've had these domesticated pigs that have bred with wild boars, and now they're kind of multiplying at this big rate. It is a problem. So one of the characters is this guy who goes out and hunts wild pigs. And then, of course, the billionaire who makes the gun, his name is TR. Also, the guy who hunts the wild pigs, his name is Red, or Rufus. They call him either one. And then the fourth main character really is this guy named Lax, who is a Sikh, who is from Canada. around Vancouver area, but I mean, he's Indian. He has Indian descent, and he goes off to he doesn't really know what to do with his life, so he goes off onto a pilgrimage back to India. This book starts off with a big kind of action set piece of the Queen. She's a pilot and she's flying her plane into a airport in Waco, Texas. And then like all of these wild pigs like end up getting into the airport onto the runway, and then the plane crashes into the plane crashes because it's trying to land and it's landing on all these wild pigs, and then it ends up crashing. This brings up my first real big problem with this book, is that this book is not realistic at all. She crashes this plane, and then she meets up with this guy Red when they're trying to get out of the plane, and Red is there because he's hunting all these wild pigs. He's going after this one wild pig that killed his daughter. It's a whole kind of Captain Ahab thing, and even kind of equates it to being like Captain Ahab, from Moby Dick. And so then the plane crashes, the Queen and her entourage get out of the plane, meet this guy who's killing all these wild pigs on the runway and stuff. And then she just kind of spirits off into the night with this guy. Doesn't bother going through customs, doesn't wait around for the fire department, doesn't care at all, really, that she just crashed this plane and just kind of takes off into the night. This is totally unrealistic. The police would be hunting down anybody who crashes a plane, no matter whether it was an accident or on purpose. And she just gets away with it. And by the end of the book, I'm like, when are the repercussions of that plane crash going to happen? It never happens in this book. It is so dumb. She illegally enters the country with no repercussions, crashes a plane, has nobody come and question her about it, and then just kind of takes off into the night, and then she's able to leave the country again somehow. It's really dumb. So she takes off into the night with this guy Rufus or Red, and then they're out camping because he has this gear to go out camping because that's his job to hunt these wild boars or wild pigs. And then he starts talking about these people that he calls relay refugees, that are people whose air conditioning broke down and they started living in their own RVs and stuff in these campgrounds and stuff like that. First off, what he talks about is kind of a real thing. These wild red ants will get into the relays and air conditioners in Texas and then short out the air conditioners. Even if this was a gigantic problem, which it isn't, even if it was a gigantic problem in Texas of people losing their air conditioning, they have indoor air conditioners. I have a mini split sitting right here in my apartment. They also have stand-up indoor air conditioners. The fact that somebody's going to leave their entire home and then just go live in an RV because their air conditioning doesn't work, even if, in his book, he talks about how the climate is getting hotter, which it is, but still, people aren't going to abandon their homes just because their air conditioning doesn't work. They're going to buy an indoor air conditioner. They're going to find another way around it. That's so dumb. It's just another complaint I have with this book. He also writes this book like he's an out-of-touch boomer, which I think he is. He repeatedly keeps calling Native Americans or indigenous people Indians. He refers to them as Indians. There's even a part where the character Lax, who is Indian by descent, actually from India, he has to point that out and say, no, this guy is actually from India, not like an Indian. It's almost bordering on racist. I'm not going to call it racist because I think that might be a little too much, but it does seem like he's out of touch. People don't call Native Americans Indians anymore. It just hasn't happened for, 20 years maybe. It's really kind of dumb. The other big problem I have with this book is that he rambles on and on about stuff that has no relevance to the plot. This book is way too big. It's way too padded. There's a part in here, like near the beginning, somewhere around here or so, where one of the minor characters who's part of the Queen's entourage goes to Louisiana and goes and talks with his father. And then there's like 20 pages going on about this guy's descent and where he came from. He came from New Guinea, and like they're talking about all of like the history of New Guinea. It basically feels like Neal Stephenson did a whole bunch of research and just wanted to show off and be like, I'm so smart. Look how much I know about the world and all of these other places in the world. But it had nothing to do with the plot of this book. It was overblown. It's padding. It made no sense. And all it did was just infuriate me, because the whole time I'm reading, I'm like, what does this have to do with anything? It had nothing to do with the plot. It had nothing to do with any of the characters even. Like, this guy is a minor character in the book. It made no sense. There's another part where like the Queen, she goes back to Netherlands, and they end up having like these deep fake videos come out about her supporting geoengineering, which is what the guy in Texas is doing. Like, that's why she was in Texas. She goes to Texas to meet with this billionaire so that he can show her and a few other people from around the world, a few other rich people, you know, a couple from Venice and then a couple from the Philippines, like to show them like this giant gun that he has that shoots sulfur dioxide into the atmosphere. And then she goes back to the Netherlands, and then it gets out kind of that she was there to like see this guy's gun, because he starts shooting it off and people start realizing what's going on. And then these deep fake videos come out. These deep fake videos come out of her like basically supporting geoengineering and then supporting like this more other fringe faction of her government, or these other people that their government starts to collapse because of these geoengineering things. And these deep fake videos come out about her. And then she decides to abdicate her throne to her daughter because of these deep fake videos. Come on. That's so dumb. Like, they have technology that can detect deep fakes, and that you would think like they would use this technology on it and, you know, show them that they're fake and that they're a hoax. But she abdicates the throne because of these stupid deepfake videos, and not because she crashed a freaking plane into Waco, Texas, and then just ran off into the night. Like, that would be a good reason to maybe abdicate the throne, because that's a huge error in judgment, but not some stupid deepfake video. Oh, this book drives me insane with just how dumb it is. Ugh. There's another thing in here that is really, really stupid too. So the character Lax, who I said, you know, was this Canadian guy who was of Indian descent. He goes back to India to kind of go on a pilgrimage to find himself. He ends up at the line of actual control. And this is where I kind of learned something, actually, for once. I didn't know what this thing really was. The line of actual control, though, is this border between India and China that is kind of in flux. And they signed a peace treaty in 1962 saying that they wouldn't shoot each other or use any kind of huge weapons against each other in war there at the line of actual control. But they do fight, and they use like sticks and rocks and old school weaponry, basically, not even spears and swords, but just like sticks and rocks. This is the actual thing. Look it up. It is kind of interesting, which is, again, is one thing I did learn from this book. But they go, and this guy Lax eventually ends up at the line of actual control and is like this great like Gatka like stick fighter. It's like a form of stick fighting in India. And he's like this super great fighter, and he goes to the line of actual control. And then there's like streamers and documentary filmmakers that are always like filming what's going on there. And he becomes like this internet phenomenon. Really? that becomes a thing, like people watching videos of guys stick fighting in the Himalayas. No, that's so unplausible. It maybe locally, like in India or in China, like this might become a thing, but globally, there's a part in the book where the Queen of the Netherlands' daughter is watching the videos of this guy. No, it seems totally implausible. First off, I don't think that's ever going to happen. Again, the book takes place, about 10 to 15 years from now, but I don't think that's going to be a thing. And I just don't see it as being plausible at all. It seems kind of overblown and completely simplified of what the actual problem that is going on there at the line of actual control between India and China. It seems really simplified in this book and pretty stupid. One of the other things that I did already know about, but it seems a little bit plausible in this book, is the use of what are called earth suits. Like earth suits are these kind of almost like space suits that are kind of like personal air conditioners. You put them on and they're supposed to help you from the elements and stuff like that. These things have been around, for 5 or 6 years, which they were just starting to be a thing like when he wrote this book. So I can see why he wanted to put them in there, but they're not going to be used in any kind of commercial way like what he talks about in the next 15 to 20 years. Like the climate just isn't going to get that hot in 15 to 20 years. In about 50 years, maybe even by like 2050, like 25 to 30 years from now might be plausible, but not 10 years from now. It's not going to get that hot from now, and they're not going to go into production in any kind of massive commercial scale in the next 10 years. Maybe we'll look back on my video right now 10 years from now and I'm going to be completely wrong, but I don't think so. I just don't think they're going to be an actual thing, not for quite a while. And by then, like the climate is going to be really bad by then for these things to actually be like an everyday thing that like most people have. It just doesn't seem plausible. And it seems kind of like he was like, oh, I just researched this thing about earth suits. Like maybe I'll put them in my book. But he didn't really think about like their practical uses too much. And it just doesn't make sense. It's a minor thing for me in this book. The major thing about this book that really drives me nuts though, and really gets under my skin, is that I don't know who the main character of this book is supposed to be. Is it the queen? Is it the billionaire making the gun that shoots sulfur dioxide into space? Is it Rufus, the guy who hunts pigs? Is it Lax, the guy who goes to India? I don't know who the main character is. None of the characters have what you would consider like a character arc, except for maybe Lax. And, spoiler alert, he dies at the end of the book in a really stupid way too. Like he basically like sacrifices himself to try and shut down the gun just because somebody told him to. Like he has no impetus of his own to go there and try and shut this gun down. It's just like this general from India, or this major, I think it was Major Raju, I think was his name. Like he just tells him, yeah, go over there and destroy this thing. And he's like, oh, okay, I'll go do that. Oh, yeah, I'll go do that. And then he ends up running into Red, and Red ends up killing him. Like none of the main characters in this book are likable even. Like except for maybe that guy Lax, but he's kind of really dumb. And I just didn't connect with any characters in this book whatsoever. It really kind of drove me nuts. And the book doesn't really seem to have any clear narrative. It's just a bunch of things that happen. Like it doesn't follow like a traditional like 3-act structure. There isn't a point where like I'm like, oh, here's where things really get serious and the drama really kind of heightens up now. No, doesn't happen. Really, during this, when I'm reading this book, I got about halfway through it and I considered like just not finishing it, but that's not me. Like, really, the only book I've never finished was Ulysses by James Joyce. But pretty much every other book, I get into it and I'm like, at least I got to finish it at least. Same thing with this. I felt like I had to finish it. But when I was about halfway through this book, all I could hear in my own head was Tom Servo at the end of The Wild, Wild World of Batwoman, where he's just screaming, and. Like, that's all I could hear in this book. Oh, it drove me nuts. I could not wait to finish this book because I hated it so much. The other thing, I want to go back to the ending a little bit too, because it was really pretty tasteless too, and it left a really bad taste in my mouth. So what happens again is like this guy Lax is going to try and destroy the gun, and then Red comes out, and he got hired by the billionaire like about halfway through the book, and he gets hired by the billionaire to like help protect on the ranch, to try and keep drones and all of this other stuff away. And then he hires a bunch of other people that have these eagles that are supposed to come down and like attack drones and stuff like that. I don't know about the plausibility of that. I'm not going to get into it. But Lax is there and he starts, taking down parts of the ranch that's there. And then he's going to throw this bomb down the gun to blow it up, basically. He's walking and he's trying to get there, and then he gets, bit by a rattlesnake, and then like he's barely banking it there, and Red's fighting off all these drones by the Indians, like people from India again. I know I got to make that clear because of the way that he writes this stupid book, but they like had all these drones that were helping Lax to like get there to throw the bomb in the gun and blow it up. And they're shooting at Red, and then they're, have a whole bunch of other people kind of like held hostage, and Red's being the action hero and like shooting them with a shotgun, and the Eagles are taking out the drones. And it was supposed to be this climactic action scene. It was really kind of boring and kind of dumb, but Red sees Lax there, and he knows that he's got this bomb on his back, or he suspects that he's got this bomb on his back, and he doesn't want to kill him, so he shoots the bomb, but it leaks out all of this radioactive material and ends up killing Lax anyways, or he dies from the snake bite or whatever. And Lax like sees somebody crawling out of the hole for the gun, and he's like, oh, I don't want to kill them, so he just kind of stops. Whatever. But the thing that really left a bad taste in my mouth was what happens next in the final like 10 pages of the book. The queen, who is there for some stupid reason, like comes and she approaches Red, and Red's out there, the day after he just kind of murdered somebody, and he's out there just grilling out some, steaks and whatever. And he's like flirting with the queen and talking about sexual innuendos after he just murdered this guy who literally died like a couple 100 yards from where he's grilling out. It was so tasteless and so stupid. It just drove me nuts and like angered me to no end. The other thing that really bothers me about this book is that it doesn't really address climate change at all. Like this idea of shooting sulfur dioxide into the air is not really addressing the problem of climate change. Like maybe it'll cool down the earth for a little while, but the earth will just heat back up again. And then what are you going to do? Just keep building more guns around the world, which is like what they're starting to do in this book. He's got like 3 guns around the world that are like shooting sulfur dioxide in there. But it's like you're going to need like 20 or 30 of those to even keep pace with everything. With the way that the earth is going, like it's just going to get hotter and hotter and hotter if we don't address all of these problems of climate change. Problems of like putting too much carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, the problems of animal agriculture, which they do not address at all. It actually is kind of disgusting the way that he doesn't address the problems of carbon dioxide and animal agriculture in this book. There's even a part like right at the very end where like the queen is flirting with Red at the grill, and she like grabs this plastic plate that has like a bunch of steak on it, and she's like, oh, here's all the problems right here. Yeah, those are the problems. But you're not addressing the problems at all. You're just kind of ignoring it. And the biggest problem I have with this book, too, is that he's like, oh, we're not going to address these problems, but the rich people will come up with a good solution and they'll save the planet and they'll save us all because greed is good. Here's the thing, Neal. Rich people are selfish, and that's why they're rich, because they don't care about anybody else. They have no problem exploiting other people and taking all the money for themselves. They're not going to address climate change. They're going to build bunkers and hunker down and keep themselves safe, but they're not going to save the rest of us. And that's kind of what his premise of this book is, though. Is that, oh, there'll be a billionaire, this benevolent billionaire that'll come out and save us all one day and address climate change because it'll make him more money. Really, the guy who starts the whole thing with the TR, who has the giant gun that shoots off into space, his whole logic is, well, if Houston's underground, then I'll lose a lot of money from my real estate holdings that are in Houston. And then they have people that are in here from Venice too, like super rich people from Venice. And they're like, well, if Venice is underwater, we're going to lose a lot of money. And so he thinks that's going to help them. That's going to make them want to address this problem of climate change, which is not realistic at all. That's not how things are going. That's not how things are going to go. The rich people are not going to solve the problems for us. In fact, they are part of the problem. And he doesn't address that at all in this book. He sounds like a sycophant in this book. It's disgusting. And it drives me freaking crazy. This book, I think, is insulting to my intelligence. And that's kind of why I say it is the worst book I have ever read. I've read other books that I would say were written by less intelligent authors. I'm not going to say Neal Stephenson is an idiot, but I think he is an asshole. So, I have this nice picture of him right here. Fuck you, Neal. This book is trash, and I'm never reading another thing by you ever again. And I am so glad that I got this from the library, and I did not pay any money for this giant piece of garbage. Anyway, if you got through the end of my review here, please stay and watch some of my other videos that'll be coming up. Please like and subscribe. Like I said again, I'm going to focus on things that I like from now on. Books that I love. I've been reading a great series of books that I will talk about in my next video. So please stick around and I'll see you next time. Bye.